Hello and welcome to the Nation Diplomatic Dispatch, your window into the world of diplomacy and international affairs. Now, France and Malaysia have enjoyed strong ties since 1957, spanning trade, defense, education and innovation. With Malaysia now chairing ASEAN and France deepening its Indo-Pacific focus, the partnership is set to strengthen. Joining us to discuss this vital partnership is His Excellency AXEL CRUAU, Ambassador of the French Republic to Malaysia. Your Excellency, thank you so much for taking time off to be with us. Well, there's so much to talk about between France and Malaysia. A lot of Malaysians one dream of going to France for a holiday, but yeah, that's something I'm going to get to shortly. But let's begin with this. And when I ask this next question, I go back to a history that makes us remember that France was one of the first few countries to recognize Malaysia's independence, and that means a lot to us here in Malaysia. Now, how would you describe the current state of France-Malaysia relations today?
Well, good afternoon, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being here. Well, very simply put, relationships are better than ever. As you said, they are rooted in history. They were driven by the involvement of leaders on both sides. On the French side, especially Jacques Chirac. Here, late Prime Minister Badawi, who passed away recently, and I use this opportunity to present my condolences to his family once again. And I think they're marked, I would say, by a shared vision of a world which puts the UN Charter at its core: multilateralism, respect, dialogue. The vision that, as the Prime Minister said on May the 5th, globalization is not a monologue. It is, and it has to be, a conversation amongst equals. And that really mark and underpin how we see each other, how we want to be partners with each other, real partners. And it's not only about trade, it's about working for a common sovereignty, on defense, on global diplomacy, and also, having those trade ties and economic ties to prop up the well-being of the people. And that's really what is, for us, the vision of Malaysia we have, and we're very happy that those relationships are better, and we're really in a positive momentum with a high-level visit soon to France, and multiple ministerial visits over the course of the next few weeks and months in France. So it's really, really positive.
So we'll be seeing something come out of that high-level visits to France, and we were hoping for something great. But just for the benefit of the viewer, there are over 300 French companies operating in Malaysia in energy, aerospace, and transport. Is that like the exact number, or is that number growing now?
It's the exact number, but not the exact number at the same time. Let me explain. There are not only subsidiaries of French companies here in Malaysia, there are also Malaysian companies created by French people. So you have that mix, and it's very great to have this network of French entrepreneurs in tech, in food, elsewhere, and that really intertwines our two countries. So yes, there are 300 subsidiaries, and there are probably 200 or 300 more French businesses were actually Malaysian businesses. And you quoted a few sectors, but also chemicals, semiconductors, AI, food, luxury, all that is really putting our countries together. And we have seen recently very important investment from French companies here in Malaysia in oil and gas. Total Energy is back to Malaysia. That's a great thing. We have seen just a few days ago, or when this show will be aired a few weeks ago, the opening of a new offices of CACEIS, which is a branch of a main French bank in financial services. So we have all this movement of French companies here, and it's much more than meets the eye.
Right. Let's go back to February. Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim stated that Malaysia and France have talked about boosting cooperation in the fields of defense, economy, energy, and in addition to trade, investment, tourism, and artificial intelligence. And this was during a teleconversation with President Emmanuel Macron. And they talked about it. I don't know how far this is going to go, and you say there's going to be high-level visits. What are some of the key areas where France and Malaysia are currently strengthening their partnership other than what we've talked about, something that means something that we can explain to the public in terms of how it disperses throughout Malaysia and not just in the federal capital?
Well, just let me give you concrete examples. In March, Malaysian Airlines finally reopened its direct line to Paris. And it's a great success. I mean, planes are full every day. From French people coming to Malaysia, Malaysian going to France. And that's very concrete because it means not only tourism, which is great, by the way, but it also means business people going to France and French businessmen and women coming to Malaysia, not to Singapore, not to Bangkok, to Malaysia, to Kuala Lumpur, and then they can also go to Sarawak and to Sabah, which are very far but very active and very dynamic. So that is very concrete, and that is really something moving forward. Second example, just a few weeks ago, we have finalized the coming together of a French lycée and the German school, and now they are called what is a Euro campus, and they're providing new possibilities for also Malaysian students, pupils, to come and to have another education offer, whether it is French, German, and with that flair and flavor of
how did this collaboration come about, the French-German collaboration?
Well, you know that France and Germany are very close, and we are trying to push for more cooperation. That's one of the success of rebuilding Europe after the Second World War, and we are keeping on pushing it at every level. Those Eurocampus and coming together of French and German schools, there are not so many of them in the world. There are actually 6 now, and we're very proud that Malaysia is the number 6. It's actually making the two schools share the same premises, share activities together, share also common services together, but keeping their identities, keeping their ways to teach their students in German, in French, and in a lot of other languages, where it's English, Chinese, or others, but doing things together and providing to all the pupils and students an opening to the world and new possibilities to interact. And as a father myself, I'm very happy that my 3 children now in the French lycée have daily encounters and friendships with German pupils. And I really hope that in the future they will even have more with Malaysian together, because we offer that possibility. So you see, those are 2 very, very concrete things. But I could add on culture, the French Film Festival, which is starting on May the 14th. I could add also the French Authors Festival, which happened recently in the Alliance Française. I could add the language courses, which are given here in Kuala Lumpur by the Alliance Française of Kuala Lumpur, but also in Penang by the Alliance of Penang. I could add so many other examples, and I would finish just by the beautiful performance done by the artist Zoe Vessier on Medica Square on April 23rd about forgotten women in history. So you have all these French presence and things that we want to do in partnerships with Malaysia.
And what's the response with all this happening and a lot being translated on ground for the people like the Alliance Française and a lot of Malaysians I know who want to take up French as a language? That's the first place they go to, and so that's just French. And there's also gastronomy, which we're going to be talking about. But I want to move into green transition. I mean, France supports Malaysia's green transition in many ways, or supports green transition in any way, shape or form. And we've got companies like NG and EDF here in Malaysia. Now, with regards to support, what partnerships have we seen or can we see coming up?
That's a very key question. It's not only interesting, it's really key, because we cannot see a future if we don't have a real energy transition and decarbonation. And Malaysia and France are deeply committed to that goal with our different assets, different problems, but we're both very committed. And we're working very closely with Malaysia on energy transition and new energies. And just in a few days now, Deputy Prime Minister Fadila Yusof will be in Paris to discuss those issues, to visit some facilities, to see how we can more cooperate together. I cannot disclose more on this visit, but we're really working very concretely on that. We're also working, but it needs probably more time, on the regional power grid. which will be key for any energy transition. The ASEAN power grid is something that not only France but the whole of Europe is trying to work more with ASEAN and with different countries to really come together, because that's something that will be key for that. Renewable energies won't work well if you don't have an enhanced grid and a regional grid. It will not be easy to have green energy coming from other parts of Malaysia, for instance Sarawak, or from other countries if you don't have a more integrated grid. So those are subjects, very concrete subjects, that we work together, government to government and companies with governments as well.
So does it make it easier now to work on a regional grid now that Malaysia sits as the chair of ASEAN at this point? Are you having conversations of that nature with Malaysia or with Putrajaya at this point?
That's for ASEAN to decide, but we know it's a priority of ASEAN and we know it's a priority of Malaysia. So yes, the dialogue is easier. Now there are long-term projects. We're not talking about something which is going to be done in the next 6 months or even a year. We're talking 10, 15 years, so it's really long-term. So it's not only Malaysia, but Malaysia is a key partner in this, definitely. And geographically, without Malaysia, nothing can happen.
Right.
So really, Malaysia is key in so many
respects. So
respects.
personally, what do you think would be the buy-in for all the countries within Southeast Asia or within ASEAN when you talk about a regional network or grid, so to speak?
Well, to see that it's everybody's advantage to do that. Everybody's advantage for the common good, but also everybody's advantage in terms of energy capacities and the possibility to move, and for the people. We're always thinking of the people and the consequences of not acting. Europe is faced with a lot of climate change consequences in a lot of bad ways. We unfortunately see them also happening here in Southeast Asia. And we know that if we don't act in the future, it will be worse for our kids. So we need to act now, and we need to think of a future. Heavy investments, that's true. Needs of bold and forward-looking vision. But that's why Europe and France are here to propose solutions to Malaysia and to the whole region. And then we can work together. We're not the only partners, but we're one of the partners and the possibilities.
Your Excellency, you talk, and of course, when we read about France and France's foreign policy, it talks a lot about multilateralism, and that's one of the big areas for France, as you were saying just now. Now, let's take a look at Malaysia's leadership role in ASEAN for a while, and with regards to France's public or rather foreign policy, how does France plan or want to support Malaysia now that she sits in this role as the chair of ASEAN?
That's a really key question. First, let me say 3 things on this Malaysian presidency. We really thought that Malaysia showed leadership in its priorities and its actions. Leadership in putting the 2 mottos, inclusivity and sustainability, which is a long-term vision, people-centric, environmentally aware. So that's very positive to think long-term, and it takes vision to do it. And it's much more than 2 words. It's really a long-term action. Second, it really puts centrality of ASEAN again at the forefront. We know it's essential for ASEAN. It's also essential for us, EU, because we want and we need a strong ASEAN in the world. We need a strong voice of ASEAN. And it serves us to see ASEAN moving forward. And third thing, we were really, we took heart in the way that the Prime Minister reacted to the announcement of the import tariffs by President Trump, calling other leaders and saying that ASEAN as a whole, as a body, must also act, and pushing forward a united response, which also, as the EU, we need, because we have a united response, but we also need to have partners and allies all over the world, Japan, Canada, and ASEAN, to voice the fact that we must come back to reason, we must negotiate, and we must think of the consequences for the economy. So that was really able. So coming back on your question more precisely, we want to work more politically with Malaysian as chair on world crises such as Palestine. You may know that France and Saudi Arabia, we are pushing for a summit on the 2-state solution in June in New York.
France is very serious about the two-state solution.
And we need Malaysia to be present, to be there as Malaysia and as chair of the ASEAN, to voice the fact that there will be no way out without a two-state solution. Talking about the environment, then again in France in June we will have the United Nations Ocean Conference, the third one. We need Malaysia to be very present there to defend the future of the oceans as Malaysia and as chair of the ASEAN. We need Malaysia to take a stance. We need Malaysia to ratify the treaty on IC, the BBNJ. We need all that. And there are areas on which we really talk and we really negotiate.
Right. So if I'm listening to you right, France's Indo-Pacific strategy promotes the rule of law, multilateralism, green economy. Yep. France wants a balanced Indo-Pacific, not dominated by any power.
Exactly.
The focus areas are also oceans, climate connectivity, gender equality, digital inclusion, and strong alignment with Malaysia. Malaysia's inclusivity push, of course, Malaysia also has got its inclusivity push, which is the B40, and we're trying to bring them up to the M40, or trying to bring them up to a middle class. And I think that's areas where France can advise us on. But coming back to partnership, this partnership started in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. And it was called, you call yourself a development partner. Can you explain that to us a little bit more?
You mean an Indo-Pacific?
Yeah.
Well, as you said, Indo-Pacific is vital and should remain an area free, open, and where the rule of law, international law, is respected. Because without that, you will have no development whatsoever. You will have no economic growth. And that's really the spirit we're working on. And we're working with a spirit of shared partnership and shared sovereignty. We're really having this partnership for sovereignty in every means. When it comes to development, it means, of course, as we mentioned, environment, energy transition, having more investments also coming and looking towards the future, towards education, professional, vocational training, and also innovation. And that's really all the areas that we're working on.
But that's also being expanded now. You know, let's take into consideration there's AI in defense, and that's also a huge part. Does France see itself here in Malaysia helping out?
On AI?
Yeah.
Well, first, France is putting AI as one of its priorities, and that's why in February we had a summit for action on AI. It's an evolution which could be a revolution, and we want it to be for good, tech for good, definitely. So we're working, and I'm having not enough, but I really love all my conversation with Minister Gobing Singh Deo on how we can work more.
The National AI Roadmap? Malaysia has the National AI Roadmap, and France,
we have a roadmap. We also have, but now it's a question of being concrete. It's all very well to have guidelines. Now it's a question of how we work. And here in Malaysia, what we do at a ground level, we work with entrepreneurs, French, Franco-Malaysian, and Malaysian, in the network of what we call La French Tech. It's a network of entrepreneurs, and how they concretely provide solutions or propose solutions, whether it's on transport, it's on AI, etc., etc. And for instance, we're going to have a day of French innovation on June 12th here in Kuala Lumpur in the Alliance Française on different subjects, but focused on AI with people coming from China, for instance. And so we want to have this dialogue, people to people, really from the ground up and as a community, because that's the only way we can move forward together. Guidelines are great, but we want concrete action for the people, whether it's education. And I was telling about the Euro Campus, they have programs on AI. We want also to work with Malaysian schools when it comes to teaching French with AI, and we want to have those entrepreneurs working together. So small bricks, but building up soundly and safely.
Right. Malaysia's had a history of working with regards to defense. Of course, hardware we've bought from France before. Now, are there any new initiatives with regards or opportunities for deepening defense and security ties with Malaysia?
Well, when we're talking about defense, once again, we're talking about sovereignty. What France wants to do is help Malaysia being able to ascertain its sovereignty up to the point that Malaysia wants. And it's true that we have very deep ties in military and defense affairs. Very recently, the Minister of Defense was on the aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle. I think it was a beautiful visit. I myself have contacts with the Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General. There are missions coming from Malaysia to France and the other rivers. There will be conversation at Lima also in a few weeks on all this. We're working also on new programs that France could propose to Malaysia. We hope that our ministers will be able to meet at the Shangri-La dialogue to deepen our conversation and to see what more we can do together. People to people, army to army, both on training, vision of a world, and also procurement and equipment.
Right. So France is ready to help Malaysia with regards to sovereignty, with regards to how she wants to push sovereignty.
As much as Malaysia wants.
Right.
We're talking partnership here.
Partnership,
so
it is partnership.
That's the spirit.
Right.
And if there is a wish, a desire, a need, we're here to answer and to be there. Because especially on defense and military, we're talking about ties and bonds which go back more than 25 years ago. It's really fascinating. When I arrived here, I met people who were trained as young sailors in Cherbourg or in Brest. And it was not easy always for them to be there in that cold weather. And now they're high-ranking generals, admirals, etc. And that's beautiful to have those ties, those human ties, and we keep on having the same thing in France. And that really keeps us strong together. So we're really here for Malaysia, and knowing that we always want to provide the best, not saying, well, it's a commercial thing, no, the best we think is the best, and that we use ourselves. Every time we sell something to Malaysia, it's something that we also use, which is always combat proven, which has been tested, and that we can vouch on. That's the spirit of leadership and friendship that we want to have with Malaysia.
Right, so we've got a few minutes left, and I'd like to take this time to talk about Ukraine and Gaza. A little something France is very vocal about. We spoke about Gaza a little bit just now, but I want to tie this into Ukraine.
Sure.
Yeah. And where does France stand now, and what would you want for Malaysians to know with regards to France's stand when it comes to Ukraine and Gaza, of course, the sovereignty of Ukraine, and of course, the people of Gaza?
It's very simple. Russia is the aggressor and Ukraine is the victim. And once you've said that, you've said everything. And that's the historical truth, facts. And unfortunately, there are a lot of dead Ukrainians. We can testify for that. And so many families in Ukraine who have been shattered, destroyed for that. And the reality of the occupation of Ukraine by Russia is appalling. That's what I want to say. And now, when it comes to politics, sovereignty, defense of sovereignty is everywhere around the globe. There's no double standards. There's no double standards for Gaza and Palestine. There's no double standards for Ukraine. So France is defending Ukraine's sovereignty, and France and Europe are supporting Ukraine as long as it takes. And we want peace to happen, but real peace, not a fake peace. And if President Putin is truthful about his will for a ceasefire and a peace, let him show it. The war can end just right now. It's just for President Putin to decide that it ends. That's all. That's my simple message to Malaysia.
And before I let you go, Your Excellency, your hopes for the next chapter of France-Malaysia relations, say in the next 5 years?
Oh, high hopes, of course, for me and my successors. Well, we're in a very positive momentum. We need to keep that momentum. I really hope for a very good interactions and more visits, and that we will be able to offer to Malaysia more solutions for its needs today and in the future. And I hope that many more French will come to discover beautiful Malaysia, Peninsula, Sabah and Sarawak as well. And we will have really people-to-people more interaction, and more interaction with Bernama, of course.
Right, more interaction with Bernama. People-to-people interactions is another thing we're looking for, and of course, the whole gastronomy things that happen on a yearly basis. How can Malaysians forget this? Yeah. So you want to put a plug there? Yeah.
Well, we're working on the October month of French gastronomy, so I'll invite you.
Right. So if you haven't been for the French gastronomy fair that happens in Kuala Lumpur. That's going to be happening in the month of October. We'll be keeping you updated right here on Bernama. Now, France and Malaysia have a lot to build on, and it starts with conversations like these. This has been The Nation Diplomatic Dispatch. I'm GERARD. Thank you very much for staying with us and for joining us. Your Excellency, thank you very much for being here on the show.
Thanks to you.